Look at this famous image depicting the difference between North and South Korea at night. As you can see, North Korea is cloaked in darkness, except of course for this little area, the brightly lit capital of Pyongyang. What's shocking is when you glance down just slightly, you'll see the glimmering metropolis of Seoul that for North Korean may as well be a different planet. The stark differences between North and South Korea suggest that if North Korea falls, a lot of lives will change so dramatically it's almost impossible to comprehend. For the past 75 years, the Kim family has ruled over North Korea with an iron fist, shaping it into an unrecognizable country from its capitalist neighbor. The North Korean regime has outlived nearly every other communist regime of the 20th century. But you see, every autocratic regime seems like it will last forever until suddenly it doesn't. While cracks may appear long before it's over,
tear down this wall.
No one can predict the exact moment a regime will collapse.
We're trying to prevent a third world war.
The repressive North Korean regime.
In a period of unprecedented isolation.
You're constantly on a knife edge.
But first, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Play more than 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters and ships in dynamic, combined arms PvP battles. Every vehicle is incredibly detailed, offering a highly immersive combat experience. War Thunder offers action-packed matches, more realistic and tactical experiences, and intense PvP battles at various immersion levels for all play styles. It offers incredible graphics in 4K resolution, authentic sound effects, and beautiful music, creating an atmosphere to fully immerse yourself in. My favorite feature is that no extra pilot hardware is necessary, so you can fly any aircraft using nothing more than a mouse and keyboard. So play War Thunder now on PC, PlayStation or Xbox using my link in the description. And if you do, there is a large free bonus pack for registering using my link, including multiple premium vehicles, premium account, boosters and much more. Okay, so back to the video. But what exactly will happen when or if North Korea collapses? Well, it's not pretty. In the immediate aftermath, an unprecedented migration crisis is likely to break out. Millions of North Koreans are expected to rush north to China, and now that they have the option, down to South Korea. If the North were to collapse, the South would have to take on the insane challenge of integrating the North Korean population with the South. This would involve handling the wave of desperate North Koreans migrating south for food and shelter, while planning to bring the North up to speed culturally and economically long term. The idea of a massive wave of migration isn't just a theory either. In 1990, a major famine in North Korea pushed a huge number of refugees to neighboring China. If this wave put a strain on a country as big as China, a future wave towards the south without the firm control of the Kim regime to keep people from escaping would be a tsunami in comparison. It's estimated that as many as 3 million defectors from North Korea will enter South Korea and at least as many into China. But the migration crisis is not even the worst possibility. The power vacuum left by the Kim dynasty could lead opposing factions to fight a civil war within North Korea. Considering the current North Korean regime has as many as 100 nuclear warheads currently ready for deployment, the nukes getting into the wrong hands or even sneaking across the border would be the worst nightmare for the US, China and every nearby country. Both China and US-led South Korean troops could intervene militarily to prevent this from happening, which could lead to another geopolitical crisis. But while the collapse of North Korea may seem like a distant possibility, both South Korea and China have a plan for this scenario, and their plans might surprise you. Several South Korean documents lay out the roles and responsibilities in the event of North Korea's collapse or even the invasion of South Korea. South Korean President Park Geun-hye organized a committee in 2014 to study viable ways to prepare for North-South unification. This committee became the Unification Ministry in 2020 with an annual budget of $1 billion. The idea behind the committee is to allow all levels of society to participate, including experts in diplomacy, security, economics, sociology, and culture, to make a concrete blueprint of a unified Korean peninsula. The plan includes devising a new country inspired by universal liberal values like freedom, human rights, openness, and communication. The main goals are currently to reform the defector support system, working with international organizations to improve the South's capacity to absorb the expected immigration shockwave from the North. The plan includes massively scaling up the existing integration and re-education facilities of the South, like this one. This is the Hanwon Settlement Support Center for North Korean refugees, or literally translated, the House of Unity. Since it opened in 1999, it has hosted North Korean defectors for a mandatory 3-month program teaching the basics of life in South Korea. The guests are trained in everyday life skills to prepare them for a future in the capitalist South. Things like paying bills, using an ATM, and even driving are unknown skills to most North Koreans. But beyond daily tasks, the defectors are also required to learn about sex education, human rights, democracy, religion, and worldviews that are banned in the North. After rehabilitation, the North Korean refugees are granted resettlement support of 8 million won, which is around $6,100, plus up to 25.1 million won, or around $19,200, as an incentive to enter the job market. This money is a necessity given the wildly different standard of living between what was once the same country. The South's GDP divided by its 51 million citizens is $32,400. The North's GDP divided by 26 million North Koreans is a measly $1,800, or a staggering 18 times lower. But it's not just that North Koreans are impoverished compared to their wealthier cousins down south. Their citizens have been completely shut off from the rest of the world and brainwashed into thinking that the West has been conspiring against them for decades. While South Korea's freedom and democracy would be a blessing for North Koreans, a sudden collapse of the North's regime might not, at least initially, be for the best. Integrating North Koreans into the capitalist society of South Korea is challenging, to say the least. We know this because it's already happening. North Korean defectors are often marginalized in South Korean society. Research suggests this may be due to social envy by low-income South Korean workers who are envious of the welfare defectors receive as part of their resettlement. This discrimination contributes to a high rate of depression and other crippling mental illnesses among North Korean refugees as they try to integrate into South Korean society. Defectors are often disillusioned with the reality of their new life compared to their expectations, ending up in low-paying, low-skilled jobs. It's estimated that at least 30% of North Korean refugees suffer from diagnosable forms of depression when they arrive in South Korea. The scale of this social issue could escalate exponentially in the event of North Korea's collapse, adding a massive drain on South Korea's welfare system. However, the financial burden on South Korea would go far beyond social welfare, as the North's industrial facilities and raw material extraction sites would need massive modernization to connect to the wealthier South's advanced infrastructure. The total cost just for rebuilding the energy and transportation infrastructure would be around $63 billion. Even in the best scenario, a 2010 estimate calculated that reunification would cost South Korea over $1 trillion. Overall, the total cost to South Korea's economy would amount to anywhere from 3 to 12% of the country's total GDP for decades to come. The economic burden of this is hard to emphasize, but I can tell you this: in any scenario, Korean unification would present a massive challenge costing trillions of dollars. And the GDP growth of South Korea in 2023 is expected to be just around 1.5%, meaning a unified Korea could send the country into a massive recession. The extreme challenge of a North Korean collapse requires a strong response from South Korea. Realistically, South Korea would have to deliver food aid to North Koreans to deflate prices and create jobs by pushing southern production plants to the resource-rich North. Once the threat of a conflict is ruled out, the military will likely deliver humanitarian aid to the northern population. But until then, the US and South Korea would have to secure the area to avoid retaliation by North Korean resistance groups or paramilitary factions. Initially, supplies would be airdropped to coastal regions first, which would require confirmation that northern anti-aircraft or land-to-sea defense capabilities have been neutralized. More importantly, the DMZ dividing the two countries would need to be heavily monitored to prevent the smuggling of nuclear or biochemical weapons out of the country. Denuclearization is one of the most pressing unknowns of the overall plan, which highlights the fact that no one knows for sure how many nuclear weapons are in the north or where they're located. The US would be closely involved in operations to stabilize the area, likely for years to come. And this complicates things because China is just across the border. It's no secret that China and the US don't get along at the moment. And we cannot assume that China would tolerate a militarily capable US-allied free democracy at its doorstep. China's complex view of Korean unification has evolved over time. China's army played a key role in the Korean War, driving out the UN-backed forces and stabilizing the communist control of the north. Mao Zedong even once claimed that China and North Korea were as close as lips and teeth. But in recent years, cracks in this long-standing relationship have started to show. According to a leaked report by a Chinese official, the Chinese leadership is beginning to view North Korea as a quote, spoiled child. This could offer an opening for the South, but it means that Seoul would need to coordinate with Beijing rapidly after the North collapses to negotiate post-conflict military presence on the peninsula. See, in the event of a sudden North Korean collapse, China is likely to promptly intervene to secure its land border. It's highly probable China would seize part of Korea's northern territory up to the Daedong River to create a buffer zone to control mass migration and military unrest. This could easily bring the US-South Korea coalition dangerously close to active Chinese military operations, increasing the risk of close calls or even conflict. But for the time being, China has remained ambiguous on its stance toward Korean unification. They have neither openly opposed nor endorsed the aggressive stance of the Kim dynasty against South Korea and the West. However, in 2014, Japanese broadcaster Kyodo News revealed Chinese plans that carefully mapped out how China would react to a sudden North Korean collapse. And surprisingly, it seems to suggest that China would be favorable to Korean unification, even under Seoul's control. Even though this benevolent stance may have evolved since 2014, it's worth looking at China's vision for Korean unification. Chinese priorities including stabilizing the situation and fostering dialogue to create a solution that works for both China and South Korea. In addition to its territorial gains, China would set up massive refugee camps and facilities to quickly absorb the immediate migration shockwave and contain the instability within Korean borders. China would also quickly react to curb hostilities. Leaked plans suggest they would try to take the fleeing Kim dynasty into custody, putting China in a position to balance US-South Korean influence on the outcome. Alternatively, China would declare one of the warring Korean factions the one legitimate North Korean government. Chinese officials have bizarrely termed this the chick plan, referring to China as a chicken protecting her chick, North Korea. The plan can be summarized in 6 simple words: no war, no instability, no nukes. These few words sum up China's wishes for handling the situation. Korean unification would quell tensions in the region, but the priority would not be building a prosperous or sustainable unified Korea, let alone a freer one. Instead, China's priority would be avoiding conflict in their backyard with the US to focus on more pressing business in the South China Sea. But what do you think will happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Remember, you can play War Thunder now on PC, PlayStation or Xbox using my link in the description, and if you do, there is a large free bonus pack for registering using my link, including multiple premium vehicles, premium account, boosters and much more. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.